Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dan on Sports. Well, we are on the verge of another Major League Baseball season. Teams are in spring training. The games will be starting next week. But then you wonder what's going to happen in 2027 when the labor agreement between the players and the owners expires on December 1st of this year. And you keep hearing there's going to be a salary cap, that the owners are going to insist on a salary cap, or there will be a work stoppage. And you keep hearing that there is no way in the world the Players Association is going to agree to a salary cap. And initially, I had said the owners were pushing, and they've really not publicly stated that they're for a salary cap. There's been a lot of back-channel conversation, but I've always thought, whether it be back-channel conversation or any conversation, that the owners are insisting on a salary cap, that they were using it as a negotiating ploy to expand the playoffs. Now, I always had felt that. I don't feel that way anymore. I think that this could be a nasty war between the owners and the association, and they're willing to shut the game down, the owners, that is, until they get a salary cap. But that said, I think whether there's a salary cap, whether there's not a salary cap, that baseball needs to shorten its season. Baseball needs to make some real changes. So what am I talking about here? Well, right now, the season at 162 games is just too long. Even the commissioner has said it's too long. And the minute you talk about reducing games, then people start saying, well, you're going to destroy the records. Baseball has been a game of records. Nonsense. Baseball has always changed. I mean, baseball didn't have the DH, and that changed records. Baseball season used to be 154 games long. Sometimes they truncated the season as they did in World War I. So, I mean, the game changes. I think that they should reduce the regular season to 142 games. And you might say that's blasphemous. What does it mean? It means that the teams lose 10 home dates. But what they also have to do, if they're going to reduce the season to 142 games, I don't think it's ever going to happen, but if they reduce the season to 142 games, they have to add 2 more playoff teams. And that's what the owners want. The owners want to add 2 more playoff teams. The players have been against it because they figure that it dilutes free agency. Teams that are on the verge of, contention figure they won't have to go out and sign any big free agents because they still have a shot to get into the playoffs, and then it's a crapshoot. That's the idea. That baseball season has become the playoffs. Baseball, whether you admit it or not, baseball has become the playoffs, just like the NBA and the NHL. Why? Their seasons are too long. The regular seasons have been diluted by expanded playoffs anyway. When baseball had just the World Series, a 162-game season or a 154-game season made sense. But once you started adding playoffs, and let's face it, baseball had to add playoffs because they added teams, and the other sports are adding playoffs, and you've got to follow suit. You can't stick in the mid-20th century. I get that. But once you added playoffs, you diluted the regular season, not to mention a 162-game season followed by all these playoff games. That's not baseball. That puts a strain on these teams. The body can only take so much. I don't care what kind of conditioning we use in 2026. But what baseball has to acknowledge and what the owners have to convince the players is playoffs are where it's at. And that's how baseball is going to get in more revenue. I can tell you right now, if they expand the playoffs, you're going to see even more deals cut with Name Your Streaming Service, dare I say Netflix again. So, end the regular season on September 21st, which is usually the last day of summer. Depending on the equinox, it could be the 20th, the 21st, the 22nd. You end the season on September 21st. I don't care which day it falls on. End it on the 21st. And then you start your fall classic on September 23rd. And that's how you market it. Not just the World Series being the fall classic. You market the playoffs as the fall classic. It makes so much sense. And then you can cut your TV deals with Name Your Streaming Service, whatever you want, and you can bring in the revenue. And the playoffs, there is nothing as exciting as as far as I'm concerned, playoff sports. The world has become, when you look at the sports world, all about the playoffs, except for the NFL. And why is it? Well, first, we know the NFL is the most popular sports league in the world, and the fact that they play so few games, although the players would say they play too many, a 17-game season, every game is important. That's the NFL. It's a different sport. You couldn't play really anything more than 17 or 18 games in an NFL season, and I know the NFL owners want an 18-game regular season. I mean, the sport is too punishing on the body. So that every game is so important in an NFL season. But in a baseball season, 142 games, you're going to have some clunkers. But by reducing the regular season by 20 games, you do add a little more importance to the remaining 142 games. And believe me, having broadcast minor league baseball for many years, when the season has been 142 games, 71 at home, 71 on the road, it is a grind. A 142-game season is a grind. But with a 142-game season, you could reduce the travel at the major league level. There's obviously, after they settle this situation with the Players Association, the labor deal, and it will get settled at some point, be it 2026, 2027, or 2028, there's going to be expansion and there's going to be realignment. I gave you my Dan plan a long time ago. It's on the danonsports.com if you want to search in the website. But there's going to be changes anyway, which goes back to what's the big deal about records? You've got expansion. You're going to have realignment. There might not be any more American League or National League anyway. So go all out and make the playoffs the big deal. Then, with a 142-game season, obviously some of these games are going to be big because there's fewer games, but once the playoffs start, because it's a crapshoot anyway, that's the one thing about the baseball playoffs which make it more exciting than even the NFL playoffs, than even the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs. It's a crapshoot. Why? Because the biggest variable happens to be the pitching. Your ace pitcher, if he's not on that day, good luck. Or if you get to that number 2 or number 3 pitcher, good luck. Pitching is the biggest variable when it comes to any playoff sport. And what I'm saying is the NBA doesn't have that. The NHL doesn't have that. I mean, you might have a goalie who's got an off game in the NHL, or you might have a guard who's not making his shots, or a forward not making his shots in the NBA. But for the most part, although those are variables, you don't have the variable that you have in baseball, which is pitching, which makes the playoffs so exciting. And no bigger proof than that was the 2026 postseason. We talk about the great World Series between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, but it was an exciting playoff series overall. Come on, Tigers-Seattle, that was exciting. Blue Jays and the Tigers, and actually the Blue Jays in Seattle, and that was exciting baseball. See what I mean about all the teams involved too? So you really make it a second season if you expand the playoffs. Yankees-Red Sox wild card, that's what I was searching for. That was an exciting short series between two arch rivals. So baseball has to come to the realization, and I think the owners have realized it, but the Players Association has to realize you expand the playoffs, you shorten the season, you're going to bring in more revenue. You'll bring in more revenue just from TV deals or streaming deals. That's the future, and the future is now, and that's what they have to do. And finally, they've got to finish the World Series by the third week of October. I mean, first of all, that's one of the reasons I'm saying end the regular season by the last day of summer, because the focus turns to the NFL. Believe me, outside of the diehard baseball fan, there is nothing less interesting than two last-place baseball teams going at it on September 30th or October 1st. The majority of the public, the sporting public, has tuned out the game. But if you start the playoffs, NFL season is still early, and you maintain interest in your sport. That's what you do. And then, by the way, you have this fall classic buildup, and the World Series comes to an end the third week in October. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. And I'm not conceding anything to the NFL, but let's face it, by the third week of October, I mean, NFL college football. I mean, the college football season has a month to go of the regular season by the third week of October. But the weather, let's face it, baseball caught a huge break. I mean, a huge break when the Dodgers and the Blue Jays played in last year's World Series, because the Blue Jays play in a dome and the weather in Southern California in October is beautiful. By the way, why do you think that was a good World Series? Everything just clicked correctly. But when you're playing baseball in weather that's conducive to baseball, you're going to get a better game. There is nothing worse when you look back at these old films of nighttime World Series games being played in October in 40-degree weather on a Wednesday night. And even if you end the World Series by the third week of October, you're taking a chance, as it is if the World Series is played at night in an eastern city, a northeastern city. But you reduce your chances by wrapping everything up by the third week of October. And by the way, don't discount that fact that the Dodgers and Blue Jays, obviously we know they played an exciting World Series, but one of the reasons, in addition to the ability of the players and the role of the baseball, is the weather. The weather was perfect. Indoors in Toronto, Southern California and L.A., I mean, come on. That's a factor. So that's what baseball needs to do. I mean, that's how I see it anyway, that the sport has to face the realization you're going to make changes. Don't worry about the record book. Records, please. The whole thing, when it comes to records, has always been, I don't want to say distorted, but always been elevated to a level that, to me, doesn't make any sense, because the game has changed anyway. So, like I said, if your baseball, shorten the season, lengthen the postseason, and you will continue to reap the benefits with a game that saw big-time growth last year. Attendance-wise, interest in the postseason, television ratings, streaming. You can continue the momentum if you make those changes. That's going to do it for Dan on Sports. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing to my newsletter, and you can do that by going to danonsports.com. See you later.